radio. Hey, folks, how you doing today? It's Wednesday, August the 12th, and I'm so lucky. I'm Steve Levy. I am here in this amazing America First warehouse in Ronkonkoma, New York on Long Island. And for any of you folks who have not been here, you have to come. It is indeed a mecca for patriots. Thank you, Joe the Box, who is our proprietor, for making this and so many other podcasts accessible to you out there in the public. As I said, I'm Steve Levy. I'm the host of this show, the On the Right Side podcast. And sometimes I have guests. Sometimes I have my co-host, David Zare. Other times we might have different people coming on from all walks of life. But every once in a while, I get the opportunity one-on-one to talk about issues that are near and dear to my heart. And I thought I'd go solo today because I want to talk to you about affordability here in the nation and specifically New York. And I want this to be almost like a tutorial for you to hear what we need to do to get control over taxes and spending and make it a place where we can afford to live. As you probably know, I was a Suffolk County legislator for 8 years, from 2004 to 2012. Before that, I was a member of the State Assembly and the Suffolk County Legislature. And in this time in government, I saw things happening before my very eyes, which made me better understand why spending and taxes are out of control. You have all of these special interest groups that descend upon a county legislature, a town council meeting, a school board, for instance, and they're asking for more and more money. And it's so easy for the elected officials there to say, sure, it's a great, worthy cause, put it in. And without a spending cap, what you turn around and find is that at the end of the day, oh my God, that budget just went up by 10%. Well, that's why spending caps work. They work because they force elected officials to prioritize. It gives a hook to the elected, whether it's a county legislator, a town council person, a school board member, to tell the special interest group, hey, listen, very worthy cause you have there, but we're capped. And I can only get, 5 pounds of sausage into the 5-pound bag. I can't get 10 pounds in there. Please come back next year. Without the cap, however, they put the 10 pounds into the 5-pound bag. Okay, so that's why the caps work. They force prioritization. How do we know they work? Go to my website at centerforcosteffectivegovernment.org, and there's a white paper that we developed that shows the public this is why they work. This is how they work. In fact, there are many states that have incorporated these caps. And I'm going to ask our friends up in the booth to put up our first asset. If you do go and click on the spending cap, you're going to see a number of things that came about in our summary from our white paper. Here's some things to understand, all right? High spending states underperform low spending states in key growth productivity metrics, okay? The local property tax cap that was enacted in New York State in 2011 saved New York taxpayers $25 billion over the next several years. That's because before the cap that was put in place in 2011 and took effect in 2012, you can take it off the screen there, Bill. The increases were going up an average of 6% a year for our schools before the cap. The cap came into effect, and thereafter, the average increase was about 2%. Okay, really, really big difference. Now, if you put the next asset on, we'll go a little further and show the incredible impact it had. While inflation increased by only 5.4% from 2014 to 2018, a block of time that we examined within our report, state spending increased by 19%. So here you have inflation, 5.4%, spending going up 19%. What's wrong with that picture? Now, had a cap been in place during that time, New York's budget would have been $20 billion less over those 4 years. Since 2018, the New York State budget increased another $50 billion from $163 billion to $213 billion. But that was back then, okay? You could take that asset off, Bill. Since then, and COVID, folks, the spending has really, really exploded in New York, okay? Today, this year, the state budget is $277 billion. You know what it was back in 2012? $132 billion. Okay, it more than doubled from 2022 to 2026. Here's the kicker. You know what it would have been, ladies and gentlemen, if the state had put a cap on its own spending back in 2011, like it did for the local counties, the towns, and the schools. The budget would have been $174 billion. Remember what I said a couple of minutes earlier. The budget today is $277 billion. If the state legislature and the governor back then had put in place a cap on state spending, as well as the counties, the towns, and the schools, our budget today would be $100 billion less. How do I know about this? Well, I was a county executive who kept control over our budgets, but I ran for governor, if you might remember, very short-lived race for governor back in 2010. And I had made part of my platform a spending cap. Now, had they put the cap in, would have saved $100 billion by now. But I was not successful in winning that election. Andrew Cuomo was, okay? But my pressure helped put the pressure on Cuomo to adopt the idea of a tax cap in his budget. Okay, so when he won that election in 2012, he took office in 2011, and he had a mandate because the public knew that we wanted a tax cap. Unfortunately, they exempted themselves. The hypocrisy of the state. They told towns, they told schools, they told the counties, you have to live with a tax cap and spending cap at or below 2%. But we in the state, no, it doesn't apply to us. We don't have to live by it. So now what I've done, through my capacity as a pundit to the Center for Cost-Effective Government, I've written an article that will appear next week in the Albany Times-Union that reaches out to Bruce Blakeman, the Republican challenger for the governor's seat. And I asked Kathy Hochul as well. End the hypocrisy. You guys have to make part of your platform a spending cap for the state moving forward. So the same way that the counties, the towns, and the schools have to live within the 2%, so should the state. Remember what I said earlier. Had they implemented it back then, we would have saved $100 billion out of the tax base that you would have in your pockets right now, distributed amongst our 20 million people, 19 million here in New York State. So we know Governor Hochul isn't going to do this. Her far left flank will not allow it. But how about you, Mr. Blakeman, Nassau County Executive? You've done a pretty good job in the last 4 years. You haven't raised taxes. That's commendable. Now you're running for the state. You say you want to keep control of the tax rate. You have a much better record of that than Kathy Hochul does. But you need to run on a mandate. You just can't go in there and say, okay, let's try this. You have to make it part of your platform now and run on it. So hopefully you win and you can say, this is a mandate. I put it up there for the public to decide. They said, yes, okay, legislature, now it's your turn. Put up or shut up. Listen, this is still going to be a heavy lift, and it's going to be very hard to get those socialists and the lefties in state government to put in place a cap on their own spending. But you have to start somewhere, and the first place to start is to call out all of them for their hypocrisy in telling other levels of government they have to live by it, but the state does not. So please, please put the pressure on the state folks to do this. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, New York State, with a population of 3 or 4 million less than Florida, has a budget that is, get this, twice the size of Florida. Less people, twice the size of the budget. Their schools are better than ours. Their roads are better than ours. Their overall services are better. And their taxes are a heck of a lot lower. Stay with us, folks. We have a lot of other things to talk about regarding affordability, illegal immigration, our schools, and so much more on the right side. See you in 2 minutes.
Me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land. I've been there, I looked, I tried to see. Here I am in New York City, watching a nice sunrise. Not really. I'm in the warehouse. I'm telling you about a conservative organization, not the AARP loser, left wing, forget about it. This is where you need to be. You get everything conservative menus. America.us/TAFW.
Most people think they have options when searching for the best deals when they travel. But here's the shocking truth. 100% of the major travel agencies are owned by just 2 entities, Expedia and Booking Holdings. They claim to offer the lowest rates, but due to the hotel rate parity agreement, they all have the same pricing, limiting genuine competition. When you book through these sites, you act as your own travel agent, but the profits are going to organizations that don't support our patriot values. We cannot allow that to continue. So, we decided to make travel great again by starting a US-based travel membership platform, mypatriottravel.com. We are patriots helping patriots. Together, we can disrupt the travel industry by not spending our hard-earned dollars supporting the radical left. For just $29.99 per month, you gain access to true wholesale rates on travel, saving you on average 35% and up to 65%. Book as often as you like, with no limits. Keep your hard-earned dollars in your pocket and spend them on things you need and want to support. Go to mypatriottravel.com/TAFW and grab your membership today. mypatriottravel.com/TAFW. Making travel great again.
Hey Patriots, we're excited to bring to you Sugar Creek Goods, all natural quality skincare products brought to you by great patriots like we are here. That's why we brought this into the America First Warehouse. All these great natural products are amazing, and you can get them on our website and go right to www.sugarcreekgoods.com/TAFW. These are phenomenal products. I love them all. And this one right here is for Patriot Pup. Thank you so much for supporting us.
It's me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey folks, welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast. I'm your host, Steve Levy, former Suffolk County executive, former state assemblyman, and presently I serve as the executive director of the think tank, the Center for Cost-Effective Government. I'm so glad we had that last commercial with the advertisement for the America First warehouse, because you might have seen the expansive view of it. It's an amazing place here, and thank you, Joe the Box, for making this all possible for these type of podcasts to get out there to the viewing public. But you got to get here. We have amazing events with people, national renown, like Kash Patel, Kellyanne Conway, Monica Crowley, Greg Kelly, General Flynn. They've all been here, selling their books, talking to the membership here at the America First Warehouse. You got to get down here. It's wonderful. But in the meantime, in between those events, we have these podcasts, and we seek to educate, we seek to communicate, and to bring like-minded people together who are patriots, who love America, who are tired of being priced out of their homes. And we try to give you the perspective as to why this is happening and how we can change things. I had the whole last segment talking about the need for a tax cap here in New York State. It's our schools here that are so darn expensive. That spending there has been out of control as well, despite the tax cap. It's better with the tax cap than without, but even with the cap, the costs keep going up and up and up. In fact, the only district I know that actually froze or cut taxes in the last 5, 6, 7 years is William Floyd School Districts. Congratulations to those guys. They got all this free money coming in from the feds during COVID, and they said, hey, we're going to give it back. But you know what all the other districts did? They said, oh, we're going to hoard all that money. Oh, it's not the taxpayer money. We're going to keep it for ourselves so we can keep spending, spending, and spending. But I'll bet you didn't know this, folks. Bet you didn't know it. There's a state law on the books that says these districts can't keep more reserves than 4% over their budget. So they might have millions and millions of dollars that they have because they overestimated expenditures or underestimated revenues, which was the case with all that federal money coming in COVID. And the law is explicit. If you have those surpluses at the end of the year, you can't keep it. You got to give it back. You got to give it back to taxpayers. They don't. They don't do it. Why don't they do it? Here's the answer. Ready? Because nothing happens to them if they don't. Bill, put up that first asset. You'll see this was kudos to Newsday because they did an expose on this. 12 Long Island districts went beyond the legal limit. Flip to the next asset, Bill, would you? Here's a list of some. Could you expand it out a little bit? You can take my face off. There we go. There are some of the districts. One of them is Brentwood. There's a whole bunch of them that kept more money than they should have kept. Well, what does that mean when they keep that extra money? It means it's not going back to you to bring your taxes down, so they keep the base higher than it should be, and that's just plain wrong. So fortunately, my Center for Cost-Effective Government worked with Assemblyman Mike Fitzpatrick. You can get rid of that asset there, Bill. Several years ago, I think going back to 2018, and we said, Mike, would you put forth this legislation that we're drafting? And it would force the controller to go after these districts and penalize them. I mean, frankly, the school board members should be punished, but even if not that, the controller and the state legislature should take it back in the state aid that would otherwise go to that district. So now they're incentivized to give that money back to the public. You're supposed to give it back. Okay, you're not giving it back, so we're going to hold back a portion of the state aid that corresponds to that extra money you're keeping in escrow. Makes sense, right? Can't get it passed because the liberals in New York State, they want to look the other way, so the schools keep those budgets artificially high and your taxes artificially high as well, folks. You know, the schools, there's a problem. They're just not responsive to the public as they should be. And there was a great article by Betsy McCoy in the New York Post last week I'm a fan. She's the former lieutenant governor in New York. She was a Republican in the Pataki administration, a Republican turned Democrat, back to Republican again. Writes great articles. I spoke to Betsy last week after this article appeared. And you gotta check it out, get it on her website. Here's what it says in her article. Fighting the school unions who are really at the core of keeping taxes so high and our test scores so low here in New York. It starts with dispelling the myth that school board elections are nonpartisan contests over what's best for our kids. That's what people think. Oh, there's Mary and there's Joe. They're not really partisan. They're just running for the sake of the kids. Truth is, says Betsy McCoy, they are power struggles dominated by the unions, which put up candidates without identifying them as union toadies. So true. Those candidates win 70% of the time in a typical state, 90% of the time in New York. Okay, so Republicans and other reformers should make a point of including on these normally quiet, usually off-year elections to expose the union shills for who they are and back real change, as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has. She's so right. And that's why I helped form, with a bunch of patriots from this America First warehouse and the Moms for Liberty, a new group called Students and Taxpayers First, and you can go to our website. And we're promoting the idea of having those folks running for school boards to run on a party platform backed by a political party. Because let's face it, most people who are voting in these school board elections, they're either toadies of the unions, they're other teachers and other union members from living in other districts or have jobs in other districts, and then in their own home district, they'll vote for these union guys and vice versa. And the average taxpayer doesn't know who these people are. Joe, Sally, Fred. They don't know who's the toady of the union and who's the independent reformer. But if they were running on a Republican line and a Democratic line or some other name that would be associated with conservative, fiscally conservative politics as opposed to give the store away to the unions, at least they can vote for the party and have a fighting chance. So we're calling for this. And by the way, folks, they do this in many, many other states. No reason why we can't do it in New York. As Betsy says, stop the nonsense of pretending that these are nonpartisan affairs. These candidates running for school board are often very partisan, but 9 times out of 10 in New York, they're partisan for the big spending Democratic unions, and they slough off the concerns of the average taxpayer. And what do the unions say all the time? Oh, it's for the kids. It's for the kids. We're fighting for the kids. You know the latest incidents where they say they're fighting for the kids? They're suing to block more charter schools on Long Island and New York. You might not know this, but charter schools never existed in New York until George Pataki, the then Republican governor, cut a deal with the Democrats in the Assembly and the Senate. They wanted a raise. He said no. He said, I'll make a deal with you, though. I'll sign off on the raise if you agree to give some charter schools in New York. They said, okay, but we're going to have a cap on them. And Pataki had the compromise, said, okay. So we've had a few of them, and you know what? They work magnificently. They give a better education, produce better students with higher test scores than the public schools do at far less cost, half of the cost of what they cost in the public schools, because they don't have the crazy teachers unions, because they have discipline, because they have higher standards. And the unions will say, oh, that's because they cherry pick. Not so. It's usually a lottery that determines who can get in. So what do they say now? Well, we're stopping it for the kids because they're taking money away from the public schools. That's nonsense, too. If the kid leaves the public school and they go to the other charter school, the public school has fewer kids to educate, so you shouldn't need as much money. And you know what else you find? where a charter school goes into a particular locality, the public school there gets better. Why? Because now they have competition. So we say to the union, stop hurting the kids. Let the kids have a choice like they have in Florida, like they have in Mississippi. Mississippi and Florida used to have the worst schools in the nation. How do we know? Because their test scores were the worst. What did Mississippi and Florida do? They injected choice into the situation. In Florida, you can get money from private scholarships and bring it with you to any school you want. It works. In Mississippi, they have a new program that in third grade, every kid gets tested, and if you're failing, you get left back. We'll give you help in summer school, but we'll make sure you're showing up to school. No more absenteeism. You know what happened, ladies and gentlemen? They went from last to first. First in reading, first in math in 8th grade, first in reading in 4th grade. We can do that in New York if the teachers' unions would just get out of the way. But no, they don't want that because it's all about their membership and their dues and their power. They'll say it's for the kids that they're fighting these charter schools in Central Islip and Riverhead and in Brentwood. Who wants them? Our parents want them, and our kids, especially the parents of minority children. They shouldn't be relegated to these horribly violent, failing schools. Hey, teachers' unions, get out of the way. Let us do what they did in Mississippi and Florida. Give us the best education, the best outcomes, and by the way, lower our taxes to the level they pay in Florida and Mississippi. You're watching On the Right Side. See you in 2 minutes.
Me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic place in all the land. Hey, I'm here getting cleansed up. You know why? Because Sugar Creek Goods is a great place by patriots, making patriot soaps, making me smell nice. And that's what's nice. Who wants to go down the street and smell of somebody bad in New York City? Hey, by the way, what's this thing for?
250 years ago, a nation was born, built on courage, driven by freedom, defined by patriots who stood their ground. Today, we don't just remember that legacy, we wear it. This is more than a shirt. It's a symbol of strength, freedom, and pride. I'm Steve Stern, COO of theflagshirt.com, and I invite you to celebrate 250 years of the United States with us. Wear your pride, stand for something, get your shirts today.
You know what is more disappointing than Gino Visconti, everyone?
My sex life?
No, bad cell service. Let's make fun of Gino. Oh, wait, he's here.
Well, speaking of the opposite of his sex life, these people have towers that are huge and they're everywhere. And while you're traveling, you can use these huge towers. PatriotMobile.com/, it bends to the right, I don't have to tell you, TAFW. And then you can talk about me behind my back.
Patriotic people doing patriotic things.
Corporate transfer, fine professional, moving and storage, and inventory management.
Agara coffee. Why? Because it increases focus.
This is T-Mac, the Patriot, and I love Patriot products like Sugar Creek Goods. Check it out today on our website.
It's me, Joe the Box.
And I'm John the Blanket with the America First podcast.
That's what I'm talking about. The Fred Rubino podcast coming to you from the America First Warehouse.
Welcome, everybody, to the James Justice Show, tearing these airwaves apart with all the craziness that goes on in the world.
Welcome to the Patriots podcast. Good evening, everyone.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast here at the America First Warehouse in Long Island, New York.
Shane Jenkins here with another episode of Liberty's Cage.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Red, Right, and True.
We are streaming live on America First Media and Television app.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Downey Jr. podcast. Be free, stay free.
The America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey, folks, welcome back. On the Right Side podcast here from the America First Warehouse on Long Island. I'm Steve Levy. I'm your co-host. I'm the former Suffolk County executive here on Long Island. I'm a former assembly member of the New York State Assembly. I'm presently the executive director of the fiscally conservative think tank, the Center for Cost-Effective Government. So government and its inefficiencies are what my center is all about, exposing it and coming up with solutions to make our lives more affordable. It's the big buzzword of the day. And what's so ironic is you have the socialists and the liberal Democrats talking about affordability. We've got to bring affordability back, not mentioning that it's their insane policies that caused all of this unaffordability that we're experiencing now. Isn't it ironic that, in 2019, people weren't talking about unaffordability? Pre-COVID, the Trump administration, things were doing great. Low unemployment, low inflation, higher wages. People were making money in the market. It was a dream economy. Then COVID came, everything collapsed, and the rest is history there. But it really was the liberal policies that have caused this lack of affordability. You look at housing. Well, why is housing so expensive? Because interest rates are high. Why are interest rates high? Well, because Joe Biden spent trillions and trillions of dollars unnecessarily. So the feds say we have to yank up rates from 2% to 6.5%. You know what that means to your $500,000 mortgage? It means you're paying $14,000 a year more with the higher mortgage than the lower interest rate, and it's all because of the spending under the Democrats. With climate change garbage that they were throwing out there, not that climate change is something that isn't happening. I think the planet is warming, but the answer is not the crazy remedies that were proposed by Biden and the Democrats were really just a slush fund for money for their corporate friends, did nothing to help the environment, but it did cost you pretty penny in your electric rates. They're 50% higher than they were. That's unaffordability. And then with housing, it's not just the rates. It's the fact that 20 million illegal aliens were let into the country, and now they're competing for that limited housing stock. And a recent federal study showed that 20% of the rental increase is due to the illegal immigrants, putting pressure on the market. 30% of the increase in the housing cost result of illegal aliens and the pressure they placed on the market. So what are we going to do about illegal immigration? President Trump is trying to do something about it. Close the border, but also trying to get out of the country the 10 to 20 million people that Biden let in illegally. And it's not an easy thing to do. But it's made a lot harder by Democrats who are deliberately trying to gum up the works to stop ICE and the Trump administration and the federal government from getting out of the country those who shouldn't be here in the first place. So you see it all the time. Newsday has another article every day trying to prop up the illegal immigration lobby. You got these groups like OLA out on the East End writing legislation to help hide the illegal aliens from ICE detection. But worse, you have Democratic elected officials working in concert with them to say nothing to see here, nothing to hear here about illegal immigration. So last week, a bunch of lefties go before the Nassau County Executive Building and the courts, and they protest Blakeman's policy, Nassau Executive Blakeman's policy of working with ICE. And here was this quote from legislator Sammy Gonzalez, who's actually from Brentwood in Suffolk, goes to Nassau just to show his illegal immigration bona fides and say, hey, Nassau, stop working with ICE. Here's what he says. Many of them, the illegal aliens, do not have a criminal record. Is working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, a criminal record? Asked Gonzalez. Is working 2 jobs a criminal record? Is walking to your grocery store or supermarket and getting arrested. Is that a crime? Okay? This is all from Sammy Gonzalez, okay? And we have to say to you, sir, it is a crime to come over our border illegally. It's not just a civil matter, it's a crime. You committed a crime. And this idea that a person who came here illegally has to commit another egregious crime, rape, murder, vicious assault, to be eligible for deportation is nonsense, both legally and morally. If you came here illegally, you have to know that at any point you could be deported. You don't get a free ride, a free pass, just because you haven't committed another crime. If we adopt that as our policy, we in essence become an open border, because you're broadcasting to the rest of the world and 8 billion people, just come on over, don't commit another crime, and you can stay forever. But worse yet, the Democrats on the east end of Long Island are now working with these illegal immigrant groups called OLA, and they're letting OLA write the bills that they're passing into law. And one of them that was passed in the east end of Long Island, in East Hampton a few months ago, says that the local police not only can't work with ICE, but now they're pushing on Southold and other towns. You must affirmatively report back to the supervisor and other institutions whenever ICE is out there trying to do its job. Now, they're trying to say, oh, we're trying to do this for safety reasons. Well, you already have an obligation to work to prevent these crazy protesters from getting in the way of ICE. What you're really trying to do, we're not stupid. You're trying to get a law in there. This is what OLA wants. They want the local police not so much to protect ICE or to protect the protesters. They want to be notified themselves through the supervisors so they can put the alerts out to all the illegals in the area. Hey, ICE is in your area. Hide. Be careful. Now, what do you call that? Maybe it's called sedition, okay? Nobody ever brings this up, but it is a crime to aid and abet illegal aliens. I'm not saying that. This is the law, okay? U.S. Code, Section 1324A1A2 says any person knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien has entered the United States in violation of the law and who conceals, harbors, or shields from detection such alien is also committing a criminal act. Isn't that kind of what they're doing out there in the east end of Long Island? Isn't that kind of what they're doing in sanctuary cities? This isn't just a case of the police in these places saying, hey, we're not going to share information with you, which they should, by the way. This is now a situation where the local police are being directed to tell their elected officials, who we know in turn are going to tell OLA and all these illegal immigration groups, that ICE is in the vicinity trying to do its job, trying to get these hardened criminals off of our streets to protect you and me. Instead, they want that chain to go into effect so that they can put out a little alert to all the illegals in the area. ICE is in the area. Be careful. I don't know. I think that's illegal. I think that's seditious. Will we see anything happen about it? I don't know. I will give kudos to the feds, though. I don't know if you heard about this. The DOJ, Department of Justice, just brought suit over the last week against New York and a couple of other states, as they have with many other states, who are now giving discounted in-state tuition in colleges for illegal aliens. I'm not making that up. So the Justice Department correctly says, hey, wait a minute. That's a violation of the equal protection rights that American citizens have. You're now going to say that that illegal alien who shouldn't be here in the first place is going to get a discounted tuition, but the kid from New York who wants to go to a Jersey or Connecticut or Pennsylvania state school has to pay full load? What nonsense. And the other thing to look at is that the illegal alien is now taking a spot that an American citizen, a New York citizen, could be having. The reason we have state-funded state universities is so that our kids, black, white, Asian, whatever, Muslim, who live in New York, who are citizens, can go to a good college at an affordable cost. Every time you put someone in there from China, because you get 3 times the tuition, or India, and I'm not talking about Chinese Americans or Indian Americans, good for them. I'm talking about Chinese from China. Or an illegal alien, that's one less seat, one less spot for Juan from Central Islip, or Shaniqua from Brentwood, or Joe Blow from Mastic, or anybody else who should have access to our university systems at a discounted cost, as opposed to the illegal alien. Folks, we got more to talk about. This is really going to burn you up. Come back in 3 minutes on the right side.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. You know, people at the warehouse are always asking me, Gino, you show up smelling like freedom every day, even though you live in the cesspool that is the socialist New York City. How do you do it? Sugar Creek Goods. Sugar Creek Goods is made by Patriots and has a full line of incredible products, including soaps and lotions, and even this that you use for your dog, Patriot Puffs. My wife makes me use that. But people, please, get your own. Go to sugarcreekgoods.com/TAFW. See ya.
Hey, Paul, I was having a pillow fight with Gino's wife.
Me too.
Yeah.
She's
I
not
was
supposed
there.
to stay
I
up that
remember.
late.
I have the video. And now let me tell you, talk about soft. When I think soft pillows, I think of other than Gino's wife, mypillow.com, because these are the best pillows you're ever going to get. You can go to mypillow.com /TAFW. Go now, get your My Pillow right now.
The America First Ultra MAGA store for all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA store.
Hey, Paul, you know what's more disappointing than Gino Bisconte? Bad cell service.
Here, I can hear you.
What?
I can hear you right here. It's not like you're on your cell phone talking about me.
You know what? We could have called each other is what you're going.
Using Patriot Mobile?
Just put it in our group text.
Which works all over the country. And how would they get it if they wanted to be red, white, and blown away? Does that work?
Smash the little black box.
Huh? PatriotMobile.com/T.
You know, I got to tell you, a lot of my followers are asking, hey, Midnight, where are you getting all that energy from? I say, you want to know the truth? I take about 25 milligrams of Adderall a day. But that eventually ends, and then that's where Agara coffee comes in. I start drinking this stuff, and it boosts my energy. It shoots me right through to the moon. If you're not drinking Agara coffee, and you need that extra boost during the middle of the day, I'm telling you right now, get this into your system, and I promise you that it will absolutely take you to a whole nother level. Midnight, I am out. 1, 2, 3. Woo! It's me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey, folks, we're back on the Right Side podcast. This is the fourth of 4 segments here today, coming to you live from the America First Warehouse on Long Island. I'm Steve Levy. I'm your host, sometimes a co-host with David Zaire. But in case I forget at the end of this segment, I want to tell you right now where you can find a lot of our white papers and a lot of our writings. I was a former county executive, former state assemblyman, but I run a Center for Cost-Effective Government, and you can go to centerforcosteffectivegovernment.org and find all of our white papers thereon, and you can also go to stevelevy.info and get all of the writings that I've done that appear in Newsmax, the Washington Times, Washington Examiner. I have, as said earlier, one coming out in the Albany Times-Union next week on the need for a state spending cap. But I also have one probably coming out next week from the New York Post that will deal with what's going on with immigration. I was talking about the East End of Long Island and how they're acting in what I think is a way that can be borderline seditious. So be on the lookout for that. Speaking of costs and out-of-control government, you know, we have something called a control board, fiscal control board. They are put in place rarely, but not as rare as you think, when a municipality has just mismanaged itself to the point of bankruptcy. The state can interject and say, we hereby declare that a financial control board is now in place and is going to monitor and oversee the expenditures and the day-to-day operations of that particular public entity. We saw it in a lot of places. Erie, New York, San Bernardino, California. The city of Detroit went bankrupt 5, 6, 7 years ago. New York City was the biggie back in 1975 when they spent and borrowed and were totally irresponsible to the point where the governor, Governor Carey, had to come in and say, enough, we're putting you under control board. And it saved the city. How? How does it work? It gives extraordinary powers from the state to the board to do things that would never otherwise be acceptable or permissible under law. It allows them to control borrowing and to put a halt to the crazy contracts that were negotiated, that were given away to the unions that have crazy work rules, like in the Long Island Railroad, where if you work on both a diesel and electric train in one day, you get double time. Things like that. Getting overtime for washing your hands or changing your clothes. The control board comes in and said, can't do that anymore. We're starting from scratch. And it works. Well, back in 1999, Nassau County was run by a county executive. He was a Republican, Tom Galata. Doesn't matter. He was a spendthrift. Pure patronage, pure money going out the window. The richest county in America was near bankruptcy because they didn't care. They just said, we'll keep on taxing the public. We'll spend like crazy, like pigs, to put all of our buddies on the patronage pit, right? On the dole. The state came in and said, we're putting you under control board. And it's been on now since that time, 27 years. So Bruce Blakeman, who is the executive in NASA, says, isn't it enough? I've had 4 straight tax freezes. I've got surpluses in every year. Why do you still have this control board on me? We're doing okay. Okay, now some might say that the Democratic state government, Kathy Hochul, who is running against, why do they want the board on it? It's leverage. Oh, hey, behave yourself. because it would be a shame if our democratically controlled control board doesn't let you do what you want to do in your own discretion for your own county. So here's Blakeman saying, get rid of this control board. But here's what we say. We agree with Blakeman. Get rid of the control board of Nassau County. You know where you need to put it? The MTA. Bill, put that asset up on the screen, would you please? Here we have another front page headline from our friends at Newsday. Look at this. MTA's $300 million deficit. Another year, another deficit. Do you guys remember the discussion a year or two ago when Kathy Hochul put forth the congestion pricing proposal? And she said, oh, it's great for the environment. Puts a $9 fee for going into parts of Manhattan for all these people who don't live in New York but are outside the area and they just want to get to work or they want to get to a show or whatever. And she said, oh, but don't worry, we need that money. And once we have that money, we're good. We're good. No, you weren't good. We said it back then. They don't have a revenue problem in that MTA. They have a spending problem. And we called it. We said it back then. I said, we're telling you, you give them this congestion pricing, it's just more money for them to spend. Guaranteed in a year or two, they'll be back saying, we're out of money. Now we got another deficit. We need another fare increase or a tax increase. And that's exactly what happened. And what happened last year when the Long Island Railroad, the union, went on strike? They said, we want more money. And if you don't give us that money, we're going on strike. So Hochul's scared of that because she's got an election coming up. And credit to her, she was tougher than Blakeman was on that because Blakeman was marching with the union to try to get their support. So now the union's mad at Hochul, good, but, you know, they got everything they wanted anyway. Put up that other asset, will you, Bill? Check this out. It'll blow your mind. They were negotiating, and at first the union was, management was acting tough. No, go on strike. We demand all of these givebacks, all right? And what does it say? Documents that just came forward the other day, this week. MTA gave up major concessions, meaning not the union, but the MTA management gave up on their attempt to try to get some concessions back from the union. You can get that off there, Bill. So here was the union saying, we're going to play tough, go on strike, go ahead, but we demand these concessions. Well, they went on strike for a couple of days. The Hochul and the legislature and management caves. They get everything they want from the union. The union gets everything they want from management. And it turns out now management got nothing. And they said, okay, this is a contract. We'll give them their increases, but don't worry, we've got enough money. We won't need another increase in fares or taxes, don't worry. And we said back then, nonsense. This is a huge giveaway, big increases. Mark our words. They're going to come back to us and say they need another tax increase or a fare increase, and that's exactly what is happening right now. So, all you guys in the state, put the MTA under a control board, please. Make them have to do what Nassau County government has to do every time they want to borrow, every time they want an increase. Putting a control board on the MTA will give the authority for management to undo those crazy contracts so we no longer pay double for working on an electric or a diesel train, no longer giving senior overtime to the most senior members that jacks up their retirement, their overtime in the last couple of years, so they're retiring with six-figure pensions. We have to stop it. The only way we can stop it is with a control board. Now, our Center for Cost-Effective Government is very active, and we go to the state legislators and we say, put in the bill to do it. And we have a legislator, Senator Dean Murray, put in the bill to put them under the MTA. Of course, it doesn't get out of committee because he's in a minority as a Republican. But wouldn't it be wonderful if the state legislature and the governor had more concern about the riders and the taxpayers than they do for all their special interest friends? Stop harassing Nassau. They don't need a control board anymore. The MTA does, folks. Really, really outrageous. So, you know, let's hope that what we're talking about here on this podcast, putting the MTA under a control board, getting a spending and tax cap for New York State, stopping the giveaways to illegal aliens that they get in-state tuition where American citizens from outside the state do not, going after these officials who are really on acting in a borderline seditious manner in telling their cops that they should report tattletale on ICE so that all of these non-for-profit illegal immigration groups can get on their phones and notify all the illegal immigrants to run away because ICE is coming. There has to be a change in our country, folks. And it starts here in studios like this at the America First Warehouse where we can communicate, where we can educate. So don't tire out. Don't quit. Keep up the fight. Keep coming back to watch all the magnificent programs that come out of this warehouse. Thank you, Joe the Box, for helping making this possible. We want to see you every week so you could learn more about how you can protect the greatest country that God ever created. See you next week.
My whole life, I pretty much drove my car without a seatbelt really fast, ignoring the slow down signs, hitting that accelerator, ignoring that train tracks ahead sign, hitting that accelerator, and flying over those tracks just when the gates are coming down, beating that train just in time. Well, last week, that fucking train showed up early. And, that train hit me fucking hard, bro. Anyway, I got some recuperating to do. But I'm gonna get in my 5.0 eventually. I'm gonna go fast. I'll probably wear my seatbelt a little more. And, I'm gonna slow down when I see that slow down sign. And I'm probably gonna hit the brakes when I come to those train tracks. Let that fucking train go by. And then hit the accelerator again. And in the coming days, I'm gonna be personally, in person, thanking these folks that literally brought my fucking ass back from the dead. I was gone a couple of minutes. Thank God I was at a pro-cop event where every cop and EMT were there because a ventricular fibrillation, I can't even say it right, that's the worst one. Bam, that's it. Nobody's around in a couple of minutes, nothing, you're gone. So I'm very lucky, and I'm gonna thank you folks, and I wanna thank everybody for all the well wishes from around the world, actually. And I also wanna thank you folks for the hate, which means that you're paying attention. It's hard for you to tell from the videos that you saw that went viral. But when I'm screaming at Mam Dandy, while he's trying to say some words, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. And you can't really hear it, but what I'm screaming at him, and he heard every word. I just repeating over and over again, stay the fuck away from ground zero. Stay the fuck away from ground zero. Here's what I'd like to do, because I know you're going to be watching this video, Mr. Mayor. Just hear me out. I want to call on a ceasefire. And I'll put down my gloves first. And I'll make that announcement right now. A ceasefire just for one day. Relax. You can keep doing your stupidity with trying to destroy this city and country with your socialism and communism and whatnot. And I will continue with many of my fellow soldiers to resist this insanity. And we will battle every day. But there's one day I ask for a ceasefire, and that day is September 11th. See, because I promised that I would be there and make a fucking scene and humiliate you if you showed up. And a lot of family members, oh man, we don't want all this is crazy, whatever, Scott, you know, it's not about you. It's not about me. So I'm laying my gloves down, and I'm not showing up on September 11th. Oh, I'm showing up the day before, a couple of days before. That's different. When on September 11th, I will not be there, and I'm going to call off my dogs not to be there as well. And I'm asking you to do the same. These people don't want us there. They don't want us. They don't want it to be politicized. If you show up, you're going to ruin it. You know you are. Nobody wants you to go there. 5 people. Think about it. Think about what you can do, because you're not in a good spot right now to begin with. This will destroy you for any political office you ever think you can run for. Trust me. So you don't have to make a public announcement. And you're not. I'm not winning. Don't think that if I'm not going, then Scott LeBeda wins. We don't win. They win. The families win. The city wins. Just hear me out on that. Just make a subtle announcement. The sooner you do it, the calmer everybody gets, and we get back to fighting what we're fighting about. Can you do that, Mayor? Can you do that?
For all to see, a symbol of